What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 65 of Week in Review. On this week's show, we're going to be talking about Dangerous Driving, Missing Link, Little, and we'll look forward to this week's new releases. First up is the animated comedy, the stop-motion animated comedy from Leica Entertainment, Missing Link. If you're a regular watcher of this show, you probably know how much I love stop-motion animation, even though I've only seen one of Leica's films. I'm really sorry, I'll fix it. I own all 4 of them on Blu-ray somewhere in this shelf behind me, but this was the first one I've seen, and they're off to a good start. I liked it even if it has some weirdness to it. Missing Link centers around Sir Lionel Frost and his search for the Sasquatch, which basically amounts to just a bet of egos between him and the club that he wants to be associated with. And that's one of the elements of this movie I really liked, is it's basically 2 men with colossal egos fighting each other, trying to prove the other person wrong, with both of them willing to use dastardly means of theft and even murder to attain their goals. Lionel travels all the way up to the Pacific Northwest, Washington specifically, in search for and finding the Sasquatch. I liked how honest he was with Mr. Link, who would later be called Susan, about his goal. He lays it out flat. He says, hey, I want to prove this person wrong. I need irrefutable evidence of your existence. Hair, teeth, whatever, just help me and I will help you find your ancestors over in what ends up being Shangri-La. I like it because I thought I knew where this movie was going. Early on, it shows Lionel at his worst, where he doesn't care about his people's safety, and he only cares about his own, his own proof. He cares about his own ego more than anyone else. And people keep misleading him, and from what I can tell, several people died on these expeditions for him to get all this fame and glory and to get into this club. And it's later in the movie, it's revealed why. And so for him to be so honest with him so early, I was like, oh, okay, this movie is going to do something a little bit differently. And for the most part, it still follows a pretty traditional line of plot, or plot line. That's the word I'm looking for. The movie gets a little more interesting when Zoe Saldana's character is interested. I think you mean introduced. And we get to see how much Lionel relies on his charisma to attain his goals. And what's so great about her character is she doesn't ever fall for it. She calls him out every single time, and she knows exactly what he's trying to do because she's been hurt personally and tangentially to what he's done before. So for him to strut on in and think that he can just persuade her is completely wrong, and that's really, really fun to watch. Where this movie takes a little bit of a weird turn is that it starts in London and it works all the way over to the Pacific Northwest. Through a series of events, you find out that they need to go to Shangri-La to find Mr. Link, or Susan's, relatives. All they need to do is keep going west and they'll go to Shangri-La. For some weird reason, they go all the way east. So they go back across the entire United States, over the the Atlantic Ocean. I knew that. Back through London and then to Shangri-La. And it's a super weird thing because everything that happens between when they meet Zoe Saldana's character and when they get to their end goal could have been done even just going the opposite way. So it's this super weird thing where it doesn't add any time to the movie because the travel portions are done kind of Indiana Jones style, where it follows a map and Lionel's he's writing on it, he's drawing it, and that is, signaling the time move. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense why they would do that. They can just keep going west. They spend a little bit too much time, in my opinion, with the villainous aspect of it, the antagonist aspect of it, and it comes at the cost of natural character development. Characters go through changes, or Lionel goes through changes and goes through stages, but they end up coming very quickly at the end of the movie because they've spent so much time in other areas of it. There are 2 specific scenes that I can think of. One that's a really, really well done bar scene, and another is on a boat where they do a weird almost Inception sort of turn where he's running on the floor and then all of a sudden he's running on the wall. And while it looks really cool, it takes up so much time that by the time we get to the end part where they get to Shangri-La, they really need to pick up the pace and make a couple of points happen very, very quickly. We don't get enough time there for the plot points to make a lot of sense or resonate with us emotionally. It kind of just, it's a weird thing where it just he's going in a straight line, but he needs to be going in the other direction, so you got to turn it 180 degrees. and all of a sudden it's like he's turned around and they're doing this, and things kind of happen really quickly, and it just doesn't work the way I think they want it to. And I think if they had cut down on a couple of the sequences earlier that were just a little bit shorter, they could have stretched those personal relationships out a little bit more and made them stick with me. What makes matters even worse, and worse is maybe a bit of a dramatic word, but what makes the quickness of the plot points even a little more frustrating is probably the way I want to phrase that, is that there's a very long sequence after this where, after a couple of things happen, somebody shows up. There also, by the way, when I was thinking about it as I was on the bus today, there is a plot point that is brought up and dropped in about 10 seconds and never talked about again. They never follow up with it. It's the weirdest thing. And I forgot that it happened. I was sitting there and I was like, I'm working, okay. I want to hit this point, this point, this point. And I went, oh, they did this one thing, and it was like a one-line thing, but it's very important, seemingly, and they never come back to it. And it's like, what happened to that? What? It's the biggest plot hole in the movie. Anyway, I'm getting off track of what I'm trying to make a point of. The sequence that happens after all of the pieces are put in place is so long. And it's not that it's a bad sequence necessarily. It's just one of those things where you look at it and there are 3 scenes in the movie where you go, these could have been cut down. 2 of them before all the pieces are moved into place, and then the one after. And the one after is the one that stings the most, because they finally achieve their goal, which I guess might be a spoiler alert, but then it so quickly wraps up and moves on that you're just like, well, why even bother with this whole trek in the first place? It just doesn't stick the way it should, and that really sucks to say. The visuals are outstanding, they're interesting and they're intricate, and it's one of those movies where like I just want to watch it and just let the visuals wash over me, because I did find myself looking a couple of times where I was like, I had to shake myself and be like, hey, you gotta pay attention. You want to talk about this on your show. You need to understand the plot. You can't just be like, the movie was pretty and I liked the pretty movie. And, I mean, it's a very, very pretty movie. There were sequences that I really want to know how they did, and I hope that there are a lot of special features on the Blu-ray, because I think it would be fascinating to see how they did a couple of sequences, specifically the bar fight and the boat sequence. The visual style of this movie is absolutely astonishing, and I love stop motion animation, and I hope they get to continue making movies. Unfortunately, this movie didn't seem to do very well at the box office over the weekend, which kind of sucks, but I hope that they get more opportunities to make more movies. Everything does get wrapped up nice and neatly, the movie is beautifully animated, and it does leave room for a sequel, which I would gladly go see. But overall, I just wasn't quite as enthralled with it as I thought I would be. It's a gorgeous movie that's fun to look at, and I would encourage you to go see it in theaters on the biggest screen possible, if only for the visuals. But I think it comes up a little bit short in the story department, which is a bummer to say. The other movie we're talking about this week is Little, and I don't really have a ton to say about this movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. I think it is engaging and funny, and I think the performances are great across the board. I love the color of the movie. It is very bright, it's very colorful, the outfits are fascinating and fantastic, and it follows, a pretty basic plot structure of mean boss gets turned into a little girl and she has to kind of navigate that situation. It's not the most complex plot in the world, and that's what I liked so much about it. I liked that I went to this movie and I was like, you know what, I'm just here, I'm gonna have a good time for an hour and 45 minutes or however long the movie runs, and I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna like it or not like it. I figured I was gonna like it, so it doesn't quite hit that like, hey, what a pleasant surprise. Like, I saw the trailers and I went, this is a movie that I feel is going to click with me and I'm going to enjoy, and I'm glad to report that I do. I think it stumbles a little bit with the characterization of the main character. We find out a little bit about her past when she was in middle school, and we find out that she was bullied, and essentially she takes that and goes, well, I'm going to get rich and I'm going to be mean before they can be mean to me. And okay, like, that makes sense, but what gets lost in the shuffle of that is the fact that she's actually really brilliant. And I also don't understand what her company does. They keep talking about apps, but I feel like that's just a trendy thing that the writer wrote in, was like, applications for your phone, I guess. And somebody went, yeah. The cool thing is it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter at all, because it's not about the company. It's about her growth and evolution as a character, and you can kind of see where it's going. Even if there is one sequence where they take it in a little bit of a different direction I wasn't expecting, in her mind of how to show up other people, and you look and you go like, okay, that's like a neat little thing to show that she is really stubborn in this mentality, and that she really like believes that what she's doing is the best for herself. There's also a great smaller character who really gives a lot of information about her, about how she is so closed off and she has her walls up all the time. And I don't know, it's just, it was a movie that I thoroughly was enjoying, and I'd love to review it more, but the fire alarm went off with probably like 10 minutes left, so I don't actually know how the movie ended. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to finish the movie. I'm sure I will come back and like it. There's a musical number in there for some reason, with I think Anthony Davis in there for about 2 seconds. Overall, the performances are very good. The story is simple but effective. I liked what it was doing. I'm bummed that I didn't get to see the rest of it. And I mean, it was like right at the end. I think saying that there are 10 minutes left in that movie is too much. I think there were like 5 minutes maybe in this movie. Tune in next week to see what I think of the ending, because I am going to go see it and make sure that I catch the whole thing. And hopefully the fire alarm doesn't go off again. Oh, cross your fingers. The lone game on this week's show is Dangerous Driving, a game that feels like it was made in 2005 and released in 2019. That is both a good and a bad thing. This game comes to us from Three Fields Entertainment, which is a lot of developers from the original Burnout franchise, and that's on the positive side of things. Everybody loves Burnout, and people just want another Burnout game, and EA is like, no, we're not giving you more Burnout. Would you like another Star Wars game packed with microtransactions? And everyone's like, no. Can we get, well, I mean, a lot of people like Star Wars, but like Burnout, maybe Skate, maybe Dead Space? You want to do any of that? No. So it's up to Three Fields Entertainment to fill that gap, and they fill it pretty admirably. They've released 3 games previous to this. Dangerous Golf, which is a golf game that has a lot of explosions, and when I played it, it wasn't super great. It had really long load times and didn't have a very good like instant retry function, and I gave up pretty quickly. They released Danger Zone and Danger Zone 2, and both of those are basically Burnout Crash Mode. I played and perfected. Well, look at Brachiosaurus Rex over here. The first Danger Mode, I think, is a very good game. I never played Danger Mode 2. Seemed like that game expanded a little bit past the just crashiness of the first one and actually had some sort of circuit racing. Dangerous Driving, on the other hand, focuses entirely on the other side of the Burnout formula. For those of you who don't know, Burnout is a game series that features cars going fast and crashing a lot. It had circuit races and crash mode and road rages where you smash into other cars, and pursuit mode where you were a cop and you chased racers and you tried to knock them out, so on and so forth. Pretty standard racing game fare. It was known for being super arcadey fun, and it's a bummer that we haven't gotten another one. I know we have Burnout Paradise, but that isn't the type of Burnout game I really like. I love Burnout Paradise. I have the Platinum. That's 2 brags in one episode. That's 2 brags too many. For it on PlayStation 3. It's a great game. It's just not what I'm looking for when it comes to a Burnout game. Dangerous Driving is an interesting mix of current-gen graphics and physics engines and old-school game design, as in 2005 game design. It is a budget title. It retails for $30, and it has a lot of the limitations of a $30 game. There is only single player in this. There are leaderboards, so you can chase your friends if you wish, only if you're playing on console. Apparently it's not on the PC, but seeing as how I don't play PC games, I don't really care. I'm reviewing the game that I'm playing, and I'm playing on Xbox One. The content and the cars are fairly limited. You have circuit races, you have road rages, you have pursuits, and you have takedown races. But what's weird is that the regular races and the takedown races aren't clearly defined in which category they're supposed to be in. Takedown races are 6 people, and whoever has the most takedowns at the end of 2 or 3 laps, depending on the track you're on, is declared the winner, but it's not clear on what the hell those are as compared to other ones, or I'm just missing it. This game also doesn't have a multiplayer mode, though it is coming to consoles sometime in May, so I will get back to it at some point and try the online modes out. Hopefully there are enough people still playing when it comes out for it to be a fully featured online experience. I have a gut feeling that it's not really going to be all that packed, but that's okay as long as there's a couple hundred people and you can fill out a race. It shouldn't be that big of a deal, but I do imagine that with a very small pool of players, that pool is only going to get smaller and better at the game, and it's going to make it harder for people like me who are going to jump in and jump out to have a good time with it. The car selection is also limited. It's broken down into 6 different sections, from a coupe section all the way to a Formula Double D section, and you unlock those by completing races inside the previous tier of car. And this is where my gripe kind of comes in, is because I don't like the way things unlock. You have to play specific races and get bronze medals on specific races to unlock more races, to unlock cars, to unlock more races, to unlock so on and so forth. What I don't like about this is there are a couple of events that I'm not particularly good at, and they are, they're not called this, but they're basically hot laps. You have X amount of time for a gold, silver, or bronze. I'm not particularly good at racing games, and the traffic in this makes it a little bit harder to predict exactly where to hit the turns to get good times, and I really seem to struggle with that. The other game mode that I'm not particularly good at is Heat Wave, which requires you to hold down the A button, which is the boost button, for a very long time, and it makes turns hard to see, and I ended up crashing a lot, and it's hard to build that meter back up because you can only boost when it's full in the Heat Wave mode as compared to some of the other modes where you can boost just kind of whenever. Unfortunately, what happened to me is I got to the 3rd tier and I'm stuck on a heat wave that unlocks more races, and I'm kind of just stuck there. So normally when I say, oh, I've played this game for 4 hours, that's like a death nail in the coffin for a game that I'm never going to go back to. But I would like to go back to this game. It just sucks that some of the content is going to be hindered by my own lack of skill. And I'm not really one to sit here and try and grind it out. Like, I'm more likely to just kind of move on. That's just how I work. I don't want to bang my head against the wall doing the same race over and over and over again. If you watched the stream, you watched me do the hot lap. I'm trying to remember the name of the thing, but I can't. You watched me do it 3 times, and I got increasingly closer, but I also got more and more frustrated because I didn't understand what I was doing wrong. And that kind of sucks because I was missing out on the bronze medal, and that was the 2nd tier. So if I'm missing out on the bronze medal of a fastest lap on the 2nd tier, it's only going to get more difficult from there, right? So like, that kind of was in my head of like, I don't know how much more grinding do I want to put into this game to get potentially walled off at some other point? And so I kind of just put down the controller. I'm going to come back and try the online. I think the game plays pretty well. It looks great. The controls are fine. The cars feel a little sticky to the track or to the road, where it just doesn't feel like they slide the way I'm anticipating them. And I feel like I got a little bit better with it, but I still noticed that I was overcorrecting too much either way. Like, I was either turning too hard because I was anticipating the car sliding a little bit more on the asphalt, or because I cut in too much, I tried to cut back out and it immediately shot out into the wall. Thankfully, the crash system is pretty lenient with what does and does not constitute a crash, especially on the guardrails, because I spent a lot of time grinding against those. The car accidents, on the other hand, are a little more hit and miss, where sometimes it was like I didn't feel like I hit it very hard, and it was like, oh, wrecked. And I'm like, okay. And other times it would kind of slip through and I would look at it and go, well, this is going to be a wreck. And then it would give me a pass and I'd be like, okay, well, thank you game, praise be the game. That also brings up the other point of the rubber banding in this, and this is a very 2005 sort of thing. They've advertised the AI as smart AI that is constantly competitive and makes the races interesting every single time. That's a really fancy way of saying, hope you don't crash on the last lap because you're going to be put from 1st to 4th and good luck catching up. I really struggled with that, where there were a few different times during the stream where I was in the final quarter of the final lap. I was in 1st place and I felt like I was in 1st place by a pretty good margin. I crashed, all of a sudden I was in fourth, and I wasn't able to get on the podium to continue. And that kind of sucks to have that ripped away from you. What makes it even more frustrating is there's no track icon on it. So you really don't have any idea of how far in or how early you are into a track. And that's really frustrating because the face-offs are very, very long. And if you fall behind, like maybe just a restart would be good, but you don't know where you are necessarily. So like if I fell behind and I was like halfway through and I felt like I could look at the map, the track map on the screen and go, I'm halfway through, I'm pretty far behind, I have not had a very good race, and then maybe I crash one more time, I can go, okay, I'm just going to restart. But because I don't know where I am on the track, I could either be 10% or 90% in, it's hard to gauge if I should be restarting or not. If you like the Burnout style games, I would recommend checking this out. I think you might have a couple of gripes with it here or there, but I think overall it's a very solid experience. Finally, on this week's show, we have this week's new releases. There is nothing on Blu-ray and nothing in theaters of note. There are 4 additions to Game Pass of note. Prey hit on the 11th. Monster Hunter World hits on the 18th. The Walking Dead: A New Frontier hits on the 18th. And Life is Strange 2 Episode 2 hits on the 18th. As far as games that could buy, Trüberbrook is out this week, which is a weird little sci-fi point-and-click adventure game. And then My Time at Portia, a farming simulator sort of thing. Not like the game Farming Simulator, but like Stardew Valley Harvest Moon farming simulator sort of thing. That game is out. Speaking of My Time at Portia, that will be the stream this Thursday over on twitch.tv/Shawnosaurus Rex. The stream on Friday will be The Walking Dead: A New Frontier, which is the 3rd season of the retrospective I've been doing on the channel. The first 2 episodes will be Friday. Episodes 3, 4, and 5 will be Saturday, and there is no stream on Sunday due to the holiday. You can catch all those videos the day after on YouTube, along with a bonus Pokemon unboxing this Thursday. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Week in Review. If you like the content, scroll down and hit that subscribe button, and then you can scroll down a little bit more and leave me a comment. Did you get to see all of Little, and what did you think about it? Did you check out that other movie that I reviewed that I'm hopefully going to come up with the title of in my head called Missing Link, and what did you think of that? Did you play Dangerous Driving, and are you going to beat me up online when the online launches in May? I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below. Check out the streams over on twitch.tv/Shawnosaurus Rex on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And then if you miss them, obviously check the videos on demand the following day. And then be sure to check back every Tuesday for more Week in Review. We'll see you next week.